How can you effectively approach organization as an INFJ? Stick around for today's video because we're going to talk about that very topic. Some of my earliest memories are of cleaning my room. My parents would ask me to clean up my mess, and I would go in there and I would do it a little bit differently than most of the children I knew. I would obsess, not a surprise, right? INFJ perfectionism. And I'd be in there for a couple of hours at least, sometimes like 3 hours. And I actually got a lot of joy out of creating a better system of organization and thinking about where each of the items went and coming up with a drawer for each of the stuffed animals, figuring out how the socks could be laid out just right so that they were in the same order and they were put together the same way, getting my toys back in the right bins, and then lining them up so they were spaced out evenly. That was always a joy. I did it later on in the garage. I'd take everything out and I would prolong what could be a quicker process, but I'd make sure it looked right and that it was laid out right. And I actually got a lot of joy out of setting it up and making it better. And still to this day, I thoroughly enjoy, from time to time, taking a room or taking an area and thinking about how I can reorder it, get rid of stuff that's excess, and then take the things that are essential and organize them, sometimes alphabetically, but I often like to think about the most efficient way to set everything up based on what's practically used the most, what's going to be aesthetically appealing, and so forth, and then lay it out and do it right. And again, it's probably time consuming because I, as an INFJ, aren't the best with the details. But from a lot of the people I've talked to, they too enjoy organizing, and especially when they can innovate and create a better system that's more efficient and in the end serves people better, helps them find things more quickly, and just makes life more ordered. When you take Myers-Briggs personality types at face level and just look at the preferences such as extroversion and introversion, sensing and intuition, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving, you can see that the INFJ personality type is listed among the judgers. And most people describe judgers and compare them to perceivers by comparing and contrasting taste for order or disorder. But that's often actually debated because almost every personality type to a certain extent does appreciate order. It's just that we do it to varying extents. And this is certainly the case with us as INFJs. When you take a look at the extroverted judgers, such as the ESTJs, the ENTJs, the ESFJs, and the ENFJs, those are folks that by and large really do appreciate order. And I would say even more so, and especially so for the ESFJ and for the ENFJ. And I think that might be a function of just being tuned into what people think and wanting to please others and getting a lot of energy from how people react to an environment, especially for the ESFJ. So, for instance, our ESFJ neighbor has an immaculate home. My ESFJ grandmother always kept her home in super great order. She'd vacuum a couple times a day. Everything was put away. It was pretty amazing, sparkling, shimmering, and clean throughout. But some of the other types, like the ENTJ, they don't care quite as much about order. While they do like it, they're more about getting things done in the real world. I bring all this up just to say that some judgers, like the extroverted judgers, are more into order than some of the other types. And what you see is what you get. So as judgers, they show that to the world. But actually, if you take a look at the cognitive functions, the mindsets that underlie each of the personality types, and the INFJ in particular, you will find that while the INFJ is a judging type, it's technically a perceiver because the first function in the INFJ function stack is introverted intuition, and that's a perceiving function. So first and foremost, we are interested in collecting, gathering new information, and learning. So we're often taking things in and not necessarily organizing it right up front. Now, that doesn't mean we don't like order. Many of us actually need it to function at our best. We won't do well if we're just in a room piled up with junk like some other types might. And I'm not saying that other types are junky. It's just that on the spectrum, some of us need more order than others. But with that point in mind, we INFJs tend toward more functional order. So since we're primarily perceivers, we're okay if things aren't put away exactly. If we have a few piles on our desk. Actually, if you take a look at our close cousins, for lack of a better word, the INTJ, they often have a plan inside and they probably have things ordered, at least logically in their minds, but they might have piles on their desk. And that's certainly true of myself and a lot of other INFJs. I mean, to be honest, as you look at the bookshelf over here by me, it's not perfectly ordered. Now, would I like it to be? Sure, but I'm not going to spend all my time on a regular basis making sure it's perfect. Like again, the ESFJ might. And if you go into my bedroom and take a look at my dresser, you're going to find a pile of books there. And interestingly, a lot of the INFJs I've talked to, such as my mother-in-law and a couple other people who are writers online, they often have a pile of books on their desk and they're okay with some disorder if it's serving a function. So we like order and we're not okay with chaos, but we're okay if things aren't visibly neat. And I think that is a result of being an intuitive and not a sensor. If we were driven by our senses and what we see in the immediate surroundings and how it's going to come across to others, like the ESFJ again, we probably would put a lot more stock into making sure our living environments and the places where we work are in neat, perfect order. But since we're not sensors and we're intuitives, we're more interested in organizing ideas in a way that makes sense and can help other people. These ideas lead to the all-important question, at least as it concerns this topic: how should INFJs organize? And the bottom line is that we need, again, a functional order. When you take a look at the function stack, you see that we are information gatherers or perceivers. We're taking things in and trying to make sense of them. But if you look at our weakness, you'll see that we're not that great with details. I mean, we can do a good job. We might like a bit of accounting on the side. I know several INFJs who like to do some accounting. But if that makes up the majority of our efforts and what we work on, we're going to be frustrated, and especially if we don't have a quiet environment to do it in. So what's best is to have a system that's almost automatic. That's probably the best word for it. We want it to be efficient, quick, helps us keep order, especially of ideas, and doesn't take too much effort and frees our minds to think more efficiently. And when you hear about this, you might ask why. And I'll illustrate with one example that Alan shares in his book. He says, when you walk by your garage each time, if you've ever had this experience, or whatever room it is, or whatever area that you've been meaning to organize, or thing you've been trying to remember to do, it comes to mind and you see the chaos or the mess and you think, I really need to organize that. But if you don't take action on it, or you don't schedule it for later, or you don't delegate it, or just pitch it all together, it's going to take up some of your mental hard drive, and it's going to weigh you down to some extent psychologically until you decide to take action on it. If you do schedule it, or take action on it, file it, or delegate it, or just get rid of it, then you're free. You're free to check it off your list and move on to your other responsibilities. So it's actually a matter of stewardship. And it's a stewardship of your abilities, of your gifts, so that you could be more effective and efficient. And I would argue so that you can work more effectively with your ideas. Very quickly, I'll walk you through my system. And I should say up front that depending on what you're most comfortable with, you might enjoy a combination of physical and digital processing. You might want to go with one or the other. Again, do what works for you. And I would encourage you to innovate and make the system your own and continue to experiment. So my system is that I first start with a to-do list where I can prioritize things by days of the week. And I can also priority rank things by most important, important, and then slightly important, and then not important, so I can get them done more efficiently. I use those priorities and I think through the grid that Stephen Covey talks about in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if you haven't checked that out, it's a quadrant. And if you just search Stephen Covey quadrant, you're going to find out a lot of great information on how to work through the things that come across your to-do list and decide what's most important to do. So if I need to take care of something soon, or especially if it's like in a week or so, I typically put it on my to-do list. But the most important ones, the ones that I'm dealing with today or tomorrow, they often make it to my to-do list if I can't take care of them right away. And I should also mention, David Allen talks about when you're processing a to-do, you should be able to do it in 2 minutes or less, or else it's going to really bog you down and slow you down, and you're not going to get through your items. You're going to be backlogged. You're going to get a bottleneck. So you need to be able to at least make a decision on whether you're going to take action on it, delegate it, schedule it, or file it or delete it. And that should happen very quickly. So it starts with my to-do list. When I'm scheduling something, I tend to use a digital calendar. So for most of my home or business stuff, I use Google Calendar because my wife can see it too, and I can have multiple calendars. I can also add attachments. So I really enjoy that aspect. And I can connect Google Calendar and Todoist with the other systems that I'm going to talk about as well. At work, I use Outlook. I don't think it really matters what type of calendar you use. I just like Google Calendar because it's so easy to share and it integrates with so many other platforms. For my filing, I do almost all my filing digitally for the most part, and I do it with Evernote. I've experimented with Evernote for a number of years now, but after learning a great system from Michael Hyatt, I depend on it quite a bit. It's just so efficient and easy to navigate now. When I first started out, I tried to make a notebook for each of the different topics I was dealing with, but they were just so many, it was hard to organize. But then I learned of a new filing system based on tags that allowed me to give any particular item multiple labels. And doing this was like putting one type of document or file or resource that I wanted to pull out later, like maybe it was an invoice for something I'd bought, or it was an idea that I had for a project I wanted to work on later. That gave me the flexibility to file it, so to speak, in different file drawers in my hypothetical file cabinet. So if I felt like a document should live in the interpersonal file and also in the technology file at the same time, I could give them both those labels, and whatever came to mind when I was trying to find it, I could search for that tag and find it. Another great benefit of Evernote is that you can just search for keywords, and even if you've just taken a picture of it or written it down with handwriting, you can find it quickly. That's just a bit about my system, but I will also share a link to the Michael Hyatt resource that I read, the blog post that was super helpful in setting this up. And that's just helped me to organize thousands of documents. If I come across something on the web, I can just save it to Evernote. I can forward emails to Evernote. I can take pictures and add them to Evernote. There's any number of ways that you can add it. It can be from an iPad, phone. It can be something you scan in, or, if you just want to type it in directly, it can be a voice note, picture note. It's really a great way to file a lot of things and find them quickly. So that's where I file things for the most part. If you are not so digitally minded, don't be discouraged or think that you're not working as effectively. Do what works for you. I know that a lot of people benefit from paper, and there's still things that I collect in notebooks because sometimes it's just more effective to get away from all the distractions, to simplify, and to work things out by hand because, again, it encodes it into your long-term memory so you can pull it out later. I took all my notes in college that way, and while I didn't save the notes, I think I've remembered a lot more than I would have if I would have just typed up the notes. The handwriting actually got it to stick and helped me to make sense of it in my own way of thinking. So I'd encourage you to come up with your own system, and if that's physical, that's okay. And again, experiment. One of the things that I get the most joy out of is just trying to make my organizational system better and better. I'm always coming across new ways to do that. And I know that some people find a system and they just stick with it for a long time. And I'd say those are more the sensing, judging types, but they're still open to some new ideas. But I think as an INFJ, we get excited about a more efficient system. I mean, we'll stick with one that's worked for us, but if we find a better one, well, we're going to try that. So I'd encourage you to keep pulling in new ideas and experimenting. At work, I love to organize. Actually, it's one of the ways I relax. And if I can come up with a better way to organize the different pieces of content that my coworker and I teach, well, that's just thrilling. And actually, this year's probably been the most organized I've ever been. So as new technology or new ways of organizing documents physically come across your path, I'd say take advantage of them. It's only going to benefit you and give you more energy. But organize and organize functionally in a way that works for you. If you'd like to learn more about your INFJ personality, I'd love to give you a copy of my book, The INFJ Personality Guide, absolutely free. The book will teach you about the mindsets and motivations that cause you to do what you do as an INFJ. It'll also explore a couple of the common INFJ challenges that we as INFJs all face and offer you some solutions to those challenges. But ultimately, I hope it shows you that you're not messed up or broken, only different, and that you've been wired with some amazing gifts, and understanding your personality is going to free you to work more efficiently and effectively, and to feel like you aren't messed up or broken, but that you're just a special person made to contribute like all people in a unique and valuable way. You can get a copy of the book absolutely free one of two ways. The first way is to text the letters INFJ to the number 444999. And the second way is to visit ispeakpeople.com/INFJ personality guide. And then you'll be able to download a copy of the book right there. You can find that link in the description below this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it served you. If you're a regular viewer, I just want to say thanks. You are awesome. You really encourage me. I love making these videos to help you grow and to help you think differently about yourself as an INFJ and about INFJs and generally just people at large and how you fit into that big community. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, there are going to be new tips, ideas, insights, exploration of personality and the INFJ personality in particular. And I would encourage you to subscribe because I want you to be a part of this community and to enjoy the great ideas that other INFJs are sharing here. So definitely think about that. And thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the very near future.